Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with How I Discovered Liszt. Now, I knew Liszt from when I was really, really little. Why? And I know you're going to agree with me with this one because I used to watch Tom and Jerry cartoons. And one of the most famous was the one where Tom plays the Liszt Second Hungarian Rhapsody with Jerry the Mouse in the piano. Now, I didn't know it at the time, of course, but that arrangement of the Rhapsody was made for the cartoon. It was done as a concerto for piano and orchestra rather than the orchestral version or the piano version. But of course, there's million versions of it, so what the heck. It was very, very well done. I mean, they played a good chunk of it. I mean, they cut it down somewhat, but it was basically the whole piece. And oh, what fun it was. Absolutely amazing. And I loved it. I just adored it. The cartoon was fabulous. And I asked my mother what it was. And she said, oh, that's Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody. I didn't know that there were lots of them, like 16 or 18 or however many there are, and that was number 2. I just knew it as Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody. I had no idea who Liszt was. The name of the thing was Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody. Liszt could have been, a person, a place, a thing, an animal, a vegetable, a mineral. It could have been absolutely anything. And that's where the matter stood until I was in late grammar school or early high school and I had an allowance and a job. And what did I do with the money that I earned from that allowance and the job? Well, I became a member of the International Preview Society. Remember that? That was a record club. It was like the Columbia Record Club. Remember those? Although it was dedicated specifically to classical music, and they licensed stuff from major labels, principally Universal, and stuff that I couldn't afford and couldn't find. And they would send you something every month that you could keep or return or whatever it was, but the prices were really good. The quality was kind of grotty. The boxes usually came kind of crushed and whatever, but what the heck. And I saw a set of all the Liszt Hungarian Rhapsodies, the set on Philips with Michele Campanella, which is just fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. And so I ordered it, and I heard all the Hungarian Rhapsodies. I was extremely excited and thought it was wonderful. After that, I started to read about Liszt a little bit, and it turned out that he wrote orchestral music and other things like tone poems. And the next thing I got was the Dante Symphony, of all things, with the Boris Chaikin performance, Chaikin, whatever his name was, that Russian guy. It was on Columbia, and it was a license from Melodia. And of course, it was screechy in sound and brutal and somewhat reorchestrated. And then I realized that there were multiple endings and that Liszt revised everything, and it was starting to give me a headache. Never mind the music itself. I loved the Inferno. I thought the first movement was just incredibly cool, and the Purgatorio and the Final Magnificat bored me to tears. Absolutely snoozeroo. And so it only took me a long time to get into the Dante Symphony, I have to say. As with the rest of Liszt's orchestral music, I really thought of him as a piano guy, which he was, of course, and my favorite works were the Hungarian Rhapsodies. But I finally got the Anéis de Pèlerinage and some other things like that, and I still really like the Hungarian Rhapsodies the best, the piano concertos and whatnot. But that's where Liszt sort of remained for a very long time. And the reason I never got into it until really the past few decades is because I started reading criticism, and that criticism roundly informed me that Liszt was garbage, that his taste was defective, particularly if you read Tovey. Tovey, the great English critic musicologist, who I got into very heavily when I was in high school, because his liner notes are fabulous, and he's so musical and so brilliant at the things he did well. But one of the things he did not do well was talk about composers who were not part of the standard classical canon, or who didn't write in that tradition or bear some relationship to that school. He was a snob. Let's face it. I mean, he was a snob. And he said, Liszt is an artist whose work has a taint, which destroys my enjoyment of that which I would otherwise enjoy. And he called him big, complicated words like odiose. Liszt was odiose. Oh my God, why would I listen to something that's odiose? And Tovey's detestation of Liszt, and a lot of other people's too, led to me ignoring a lot of his work, which was my loss, because Liszt was a genius, and a lot of his work is absolutely phenomenal. And if there are taste issues, well, That's a personal thing. It took me a while to realize that I had taste issues and that I really liked things that were in poor taste. And so I really enjoyed Liszt. I mean, a lot of Liszt. Some of it, no, but he wrote tons and tons of stuff. And like every composer who wrote just bag loads of things, especially bag loads of things in multiple versions, some things are going to be better than other things. And Liszt had real defects as a composer. He had a terrible sense of timing. He had a sort of jury-rigged sense of form, but you get past it for the moments of genius, and they sort of redeem the rest, at least in my view. But that was how I discovered Liszt. Way back from cartoons, and how I managed to get out of the dump on Liszt school, which is really just as important. Because once you discover something, you don't want to be told that what you discovered and loved is garbage and that your taste is defective. I mean, that's horrible, isn't it? It's such an off-putting thing, but the classical music world is full of that. And I began to realize that I didn't care what those people said. I liked what I liked, and that's what we all have to do ultimately, isn't it? So let me know, how did you discover Liszt? Keep on listening, friends, and thank you so much for joining me.